The Great Hall of the Galactic Council was beautiful in a cold way. White stone pillars rose toward a ceiling painted with stars. Crystal lights floated in the air like frozen fireflies. Representatives from 100 different species sat in chairs made for their strange bodies. Some had wings, some had tails, some had no legs at all. Ambassador Una Park walked to the center of the hall. She was a small woman with gray in her black hair. She had done this walk 46 times before. Each time, she had asked the same question. Each time, she had received the same answer. But she would try again. That was what humans did. Honored members of the Galactic Council, Una said. Her voice was calm and clear. I come before you today to request, once again, that humanity be granted a permanent voting seat on this council. The Valori High Speaker, Tormath, looked down at her from his tall chair. He was a creature of living crystal, his body sharp and angular. Light passed through him and scattered into rainbows on the floor. Ambassador Park, Tormath said. His voice sounded like glass breaking. We have discussed this matter many times. Yes, Una agreed, 46 times, and our answer remains the same. Tormath waved one crystalline hand. Humanity is useful. We appreciate your service. But you are a young species. You joined the galactic community only 300 years ago. Perhaps in another 1,000 years, you will be ready. The Morvathi delegate made a sound like laughter. The Morvathi were tall creatures with gray skin and 6 arms. They considered themselves the oldest and wisest species in the galaxy. They considered everyone else to be children. The humans are good workers, the Morvathi delegate said. Let them continue working. Why do they need to vote? The Kasari representative did not even look up from her data tablet. The Kasari were covered in thick brown fur and had faces like foxes. They controlled most of the galaxy's trade. They saw other species as either customers or servants. Una stood very still. She had learned long ago not to show anger in this room. Anger changed nothing. Words changed nothing. Only patience might change something. Someday. Humanity has served this council faithfully for 3 centuries, Una said. We maintain your stations. We guard your borders. We heal your sick. We teach your children. We ask only to be heard. And you are heard, Tormath said. We hear you now. The answer is no. Una bowed her head slightly. I understand. I will return. She turned and walked out of the great hall. Her footsteps echoed on the stone floor. Not one representative watched her go. Outside the council building, a transport pod waited for her. Admiral Jinho Lee stood beside it. He was a tall man with a soldier's straight back and a soldier's tired eyes. He had commanded human peacekeeping fleets for 30 years. He had watched his soldiers die protecting species that could not remember their names. What did they say? Jinho asked. The same thing they always say. Jinho nodded slowly. He was not surprised. Maybe next time. Maybe. Una did not believe it. She was not sure she had ever believed it. They rode the transport pod back to Earth's embassy. It was a small building in a forgotten corner of Nexus Prime. The other embassies were towers of glass and light. The human embassy looked like a box. Director Heejin Cho was waiting for them inside. She was the head of the Human Colonial Authority, the organization that managed all human activities across the galaxy. She was a woman in her 60s, with short white hair and eyes that missed nothing. I watched the broadcast, Heejin said. I am sorry, Una. Do not be sorry for me. Be sorry for our people. Heejin nodded. She led them into a secure room deep inside the embassy. The walls were thick. The doors were locked. No signal could enter or leave without permission. Inside, a holographic display showed the galaxy. Millions of stars floated in the air. Among them, tiny blue dots marked every human settlement, every human outpost, every human worker. Let me show you something, Heijin said. She touched the display. The blue dots grew brighter. Lines appeared between them, connecting them like a web. Humans make up less than 2% of the galaxy's population, Heijin said. But we perform 34% of all essential labor. We operate 67% of all emergency response stations. We run the translation networks. We maintain the medical databases. We staff the disaster relief programs. The display changed. Now it showed what the galaxy would look like without the blue dots. The web disappeared. The connections broke. Everything fell apart. They think we are servants. Heejin said quietly. They do not understand that we are the foundation. Jinho studied the display. What are you suggesting? I am suggesting that we have been patient long enough. Heejin looked at them both. For 300 years, we have given everything. We have asked only to be treated as equals. They have refused. They will always refuse. You want us to leave? Yuna said. It was not a question. I want us to stop pretending that they will ever change. Heejin turned off the display. We have been building in secret for decades. Colony worlds they do not know about. Defense systems they cannot imagine. We are ready. Yuna thought about the Great Hall. She thought about Tormath's dismissive wave. She thought about the Morvathi laughter. She thought about 300 years of service rewarded with nothing. If we leave, the galaxy will suffer, she said. Yes, Heejin agreed. It will. Many innocent people will die. Yes. But they are not our responsibility anymore. We did not create this system. We only kept it running. If it falls apart without us, that is not our fault. Jinho was quiet for a long moment. Then he spoke. I have buried too many soldiers who died protecting people who hated them. If we stay, I will bury more. If we leave, at least they will die for something that matters. Yuna closed her eyes. She saw her father's face. He had been a doctor on a Morvathi station. He had worked himself to death trying to save patients who called him the human, because they could not be bothered to learn his name. Call the council, she said finally. Not the Galactic Council. Our council. Every human leader. Every colony. Every outpost. What will you tell them? Heijin asked. Yuna opened her eyes. They were hard now. Hard and clear. I will tell them the truth. We gave them everything. They gave us nothing. It is time to go home. That night, in secret rooms across the galaxy, humanity's leaders gathered. They looked at the data. They discussed the options. They thought about the future. The vote was unanimous. No one on the Galactic Council noticed. They were too busy with their own concerns. They had forgotten, as they always forgot, that the quiet workers in the background were people too. They would remember soon enough. The departure did not begin with war. There were no angry speeches, no burning flags, no fleets of warships crossing the stars. It began with paperwork. On a Tuesday morning, 12,000 human engineers filed retirement notices. The forms were correct. The procedures were followed. Everything was legal and proper and quiet. Captain Minho Kang was one of them. He had worked on orbital station Theris 7 for 20 years. It was the largest trading hub in the outer sectors. 3 million travelers passed through it every month. Its reactors were old and complicated. Only Minho understood them completely. He stood in the office of the station administrator, a Kasari named Foth. Foth had thick brown fur and small black eyes that were always counting money. Your retirement notice has been received, Foth said. He did not look up from his tablet. Your replacement arrives next cycle. Minho nodded. He knew that no replacement was coming. The Kasari had never bothered to train anyone else. Why would they? Humans were always available. Humans were always willing. Humans never said no, until now. I have prepared documentation on all reactor systems, Minho said. It is very detailed. I recommend your replacement study it carefully. Yes, yes. Foth waved a furry hand. You may go. Minho walked through the station one last time. He had spent 20 years keeping this place alive. He knew every pipe, every wire, every panel. He knew which systems were failing and which were barely holding together. He knew that without constant attention, the whole station would collapse within months. He felt nothing. He had given this station everything. In return, he had received a small salary and a smaller room. Foth had never learned his name. To Foth, he was just the human engineer. At the docking bay, a small transport ship waited. Other humans were already aboard. Engineers, doctors, teachers, technicians, all of them leaving, all of them quiet. Minho took one last look at Theris 7. Then he boarded the ship and did not look back. Across the galaxy, the same scene repeated itself. Humans slipped away from posts they had held for generations. They did not make demands. They did not issue warnings. They simply left. Dr. Sujin Baek was the last human in the Council Medical Corps. She had trained thousands of alien doctors. She had developed treatments for diseases that killed millions. She had saved more lives than she could count. Her supervisor was a Morvathi named Vel. He had 6 arms and a voice like grinding stones. "You cannot simply leave," Vel said. His 6 arms waved in agitation. "Who will run the neural reconstruction wing? Who will maintain the genetic databases? Who will train the new physicians?" Sujin smiled. It was not a happy smile. "I am sure you will manage. This is unacceptable. I will report this to the council. Please do." Sujin walked out of the medical center. She had worked there for 30 years. She had taught Vel everything he knew. He had never once said thank you. They would not manage. She knew this. The neural reconstruction wing required human steady hands. The genetic databases were written in human code that no one else understood. The training programs were built on human teaching methods that other species found confusing. But this was not her problem anymore. The human exodus was slow and careful. It took 3 years. Each departure was planned. Each replacement was requested. Each procedure was followed exactly. The Galactic Council did not notice. How could they? They had never paid attention to the humans in the first place. Ambassador Yuna Park remained on Nexus Prime until the very end. She continued to attend council meetings. She continued to file reports. She continued to smile and nod and pretend that everything was normal. One day, a Valori official asked her about the engineering shortage. "We have noticed that many human engineers are leaving their posts," the official said. "This is causing some difficulties." "Ah, yes," Yuna replied. "Many of our people are choosing to retire. They have served for a long time. They wish to return home. But who will replace them?" Yuna tilted her head. "I assumed you had made arrangements. These positions are very important. Surely the council has training programs." The official's crystal face flickered. He did not answer. There were no training programs. There had never been any need for them. Humans had always been there. "I will look into it," the official said finally. He did not look into it. He forgot about it the next day. He had more important things to worry about. On the last day, Yuna stood in the empty human embassy. Every desk was clean. Every file was organized. Every piece of equipment was perfectly maintained. Admiral Jinho Lee waited by the door. "Are you ready?" he asked. Yuna looked around the small building. Humans had worked here for 300 years. They had done their best. They had given everything. "Yes," she said. "I am ready." They walked out together. The door locked behind them. A small sign remained on the front. "Human Embassy. Closed until further notice." No one came to read it. The journey home took 2 weeks. Yuna and Jinho traveled on a civilian transport with other returning humans. Everyone was quiet. Everyone was thinking about what they had left behind. When they reached Earth, Director Heijin Cho met them at the spaceport. "It is done," Yuna reported. "Every human has left Council space. Every post has been abandoned. Every door has been closed." Heijin nodded slowly. "And now we wait. How long do you think it will take?" Jinho asked. Before they notice, Heijin looked up at the sky. Earth's sky was blue and clear. It was beautiful in a way that no alien world had ever been. "The first systems will fail within 3 months," she said. "The translation networks will collapse within 6. After a year, they will begin to understand. After 5 years, they will be desperate. And what will we do? We will do nothing. We will stay here. We will build our own civilization. We will remember who we are." Yuna thought about Tormath's dismissive wave. She thought about Vel's angry demands. She thought about Foth's counting eyes. "They will come for us," she said. "They will send ships. They will make demands." "Yes," Heijin agreed. "They will try." She smiled. It was a cold smile, a patient smile. Let them try. Far away, on orbital station Theris 7, the reactor warning lights began to blink. No one noticed. The Kessari administrator was busy counting profits from the morning's trade. By the time he noticed, It would be too late. Humanity had departed quietly. The galaxy would soon learn what that silence meant. The first crack appeared on a cold morning in the outer sectors. Orbital Station Theris 7 went dark. 3 million travelers were trapped inside when the reactor failed. The backup systems held for 12 hours. Then they failed too. Administrator Foth sent emergency messages to every engineering company in the sector. No one could help. The reactor was an old design, modified by human engineers over many decades. No one else knew how it worked. Find the humans, Foth ordered. Find them, and bring them back. His workers searched. They found nothing. The humans had disappeared like smoke in the wind. Rescue ships arrived eventually. They managed to save most of the travelers, but the station itself was dead. It floated in space like a giant metal corpse. The Galactic Council held an emergency meeting. "This is an isolated incident," High Speaker Tormouth declared. "We will adapt." But it was not isolated. Within 3 months, power stations across the galaxy began to fail. Communication networks went silent. Medical equipment stopped working. Ships could not be repaired. Food production systems broke down. The translation network collapsed on a Tuesday afternoon. For 3 centuries, humans had maintained the universal translator. It was a complex system of computers and satellites that allowed different species to understand each other. It processed billions of messages every second. It made galactic civilization possible. No one had ever thought to learn how it worked. When it failed, the galaxy suddenly became a tower of babbling voices. The Valori could not understand the Morvathi. The Morvathi could not understand the Kessari. Trade negotiations became impossible. Diplomatic meetings turned into shouting matches. Old hatreds, long buried under polite translation, rose to the surface. War broke out between the Valori and the Pelcari within a month. They had been arguing about a border for centuries. Human mediators had always kept the peace. Without them, the argument became a battle. The battle became a war. Then came the plague. It started on the Morvathi homeworld, a simple disease that human doctors had cured 1,000 times. But the human doctors were gone. The medical databases they had created were locked behind codes no one else knew. Vel, the Morvathi supervisor who had complained when Dr. Sujin left, was one of the first to die. He spent his last days screaming for human help that would never come. 8 million Morvathi died in the first wave. 12 million more died in the second. By the time their own scientists figured out the cure, their population had been cut in half. High Speaker Tormouth summoned Ambassador Una Park back to Nexus Prime. She did not come. She sent a recorded message instead. Her face appeared on the Council's great screen. She looked older now, tired, but her eyes were clear and hard. "Humanity no longer recognizes the authority of the Galactic Council," she said. "We wish you well." The message ended. The screen went dark. Tormouth stared at the empty screen. For the first time in his long life, he felt something like fear. "They cannot do this," the Morvathi delegate shouted. "They are servants. They belong to the Council. They do not belong to anyone," Tormouth said quietly. "They never did. We just never noticed." The Kessari took action. They were traitors, but they had warships too. Many warships. They sent 200 of them to the Sol system. "We will force them to return," the Kessari leader announced. "They will learn their place." Admiral Jinho Lee met the Kessari fleet at the edge of human space. The Kessari expected primitive defenses. They expected a small, weak species that had always bowed and served. They expected an easy victory. They were wrong. Human engineers had been building in secret for a century. They had taken the scraps and leftover materials the galaxy had given them. They had studied every weapon, every shield, every system. They had made something new. The defense grid activated when the Kessari ships came within range. It was beautiful in its efficiency. No weapons were fired. No lives were taken. The grid simply reached out and shut everything down. Engines stopped. Weapons went offline. Shields collapsed. 200 Kessari warships drifted helplessly in space. Jinho opened a communication channel. "You are not welcome here," he said. His voice was calm. "Please leave. You cannot do this." The Kessari commander shouted. We are the Kasari fleet. We are leaving, Jino interrupted. You are leaving. Now. He gave them back their engines. Only their engines. The Kasari fleet turned around and flew home. They had not fired a single shot. The galaxy watched in shock. They did not even fight. People whispered. They just stopped us. Like we were nothing. On Earth, Director Heijin Cho addressed the human population. Today we showed the galaxy who we really are, she said. We are not servants. We are not workers. We are not the quiet people in the background. We are humanity. And we will never bow again. The crowd cheered. After 3 centuries of service, they finally felt free, but far away, in the ruins of what had once been a great civilization. People were dying. Stations were failing. Ships were crashing. Wars were spreading. The Galactic Council met again. The Great Hall was half empty now. Many representatives had not survived the journey. The translation network was still broken. They had to communicate through hand signals and written notes. Tormath stood at his chair. He looked around at the chaos. He remembered how it had been before. How clean and organized. How everything had worked perfectly. He had never asked how it worked. He had never cared. The humans took care of everything. That was what humans did. Now the humans were gone. And everything was falling apart. We made a mistake, he said quietly. No one heard him. No one was listening anymore. In the outer sectors, a small Valori child named Kitara watched her world burn. She did not understand what was happening. She only knew that the lights were going out. One by one. Where are the humans? She asked her mother. They went away. Why? Her mother did not answer. She did not know. No one had ever bothered to ask the humans why they stayed. Now it was too late to ask why they left. The galaxy was unraveling. And there was no one left to fix it. 5 years passed. The galaxy became a graveyard. The Valori Empire had broken into 17 pieces. Each piece fought the others. Crystal cities that had stood for 10,000 years burned and shattered. The survivors scattered to the edges of space, looking for shelter that no longer existed. The Morvathi were ghosts of what they had been. Their population had fallen by half. Their great academies were empty. Their ancient knowledge was lost. They had been so proud of their wisdom. Now they could not even feed themselves. The Kesari trade networks collapsed. Without the infrastructure that humans had maintained, ships could not travel safely. Goods rotted in warehouses. Fortunes disappeared overnight. The great merchant families turned on each other like hungry animals. 12 species were at war. Countless more had simply disappeared, swallowed by the chaos. Tormath was no longer high speaker. There was no council left to speak for. He lived on a crumbling station at the edge of nowhere, surviving on emergency rations and fading hope. One night, he sat alone in his small room and wrote a message to Earth. His crystalline fingers shook as he typed. To the people of humanity, he wrote, I am Tormath. I was once High Speaker of the Galactic Council. I come to you not as a leader, but as a beggar. I was wrong. The Council was wrong. We treated you like servants when you were partners. We dismissed you when we should have listened. We took everything you gave and offered nothing in return. I understand now that this was unforgivable, but I must ask anyway. Please, help us. We are dying. Our civilization is ending. Without you, there is no future. I do not ask you to forget what we did. I only ask you to consider who you are. You are helpers. You are builders. You are the species that ran into burning stations to save people who never learned your names. That is who you have always been. Be that again. Please. I am sorry. I am so sorry. Tormath. He sent the message into the void. He did not expect an answer, but an answer came. Director Heijin Cho read Tormath's message aloud to the human assembly. The assembly had grown over the past 5 years. Human civilization was thriving. Their colonies were expanding. Their technology was advancing. They had built something beautiful in the silence. They want us back. Heijin said when she finished reading. They are offering full council membership, reparations, equal status. Everything we asked for. 300 years ago, the chamber was quiet. Representatives from every human world sat in their seats. Listening, Elder Dongwu Xin rose slowly from his chair. He was 142 years old. His hair was white. His face was lined with the marks of a long life, but his eyes were still sharp. He had been a young engineer when humanity first joined the galactic community. He remembered the excitement, the hope, the dream of being part of something greater. He also remembered the disappointment, the dismissals, the contempt. He remembered watching his friends work themselves to death for species that could not be bothered to learn their names. I remember when we first reached the stars, Dongwu said. His voice was soft but clear. We were so eager, so hopeful. We thought that if we just worked hard enough, if we just proved ourselves, they would accept us as equals. He paused. The chamber was completely silent. We worked hard, he continued. We proved ourselves 1,000 times over. We saved their stations. We cured their diseases. We stopped their wars. We gave them everything we had. And what did they give us? Nothing. Less than nothing. They gave us contempt. They gave us dismissal. They treated us like tools, like furniture, like something that exists only to serve. Dongwu looked around the chamber. He saw young faces and old faces. He saw people who had suffered and people who had only heard stories of suffering. He saw his people. Now they are dying, he said. Now they want our help. Now they offer us everything we ever wanted. He shook his head slowly. But I do not want their membership anymore. I do not want their reparations. I do not want their equality. Do you know what I want? He let the question hang in the air. I want to be left alone. I want to build our own civilization, on our own terms. I want our children to grow up knowing their worth, without needing anyone else to validate it. I want us to finally, after 300 years, learn to value ourselves. Ambassador Yuna Park stood up. She was older now, too. Gray had turned to white. But she was still strong. Dongwu speaks truly, she said. For 3 centuries, we measured ourselves by how others saw us. We begged for their approval. We worked ourselves to exhaustion trying to earn their respect. We never asked ourselves a simple question. Why do we need them to respect us? Why is our respect for ourselves not enough? She walked to the center of the chamber. I moved among them for 50 years, she said. I saw how they lived. They were not better than us. They were not wiser. They were just older, and they used that age to justify their cruelty. They told us to wait 1,000 years. They told us we were too young. But we were never too young. We were just too kind, too patient, too willing to accept whatever crumbs they threw at us. She turned to face the assembly. If we go back, nothing will change. They will thank us for a while. They will give us seats and titles and pretty words. And then, slowly, they will forget again. They will start to take us for granted again. They will return to their old ways, because that is who they are. But if we stay here, she continued, we can build something new, something that is ours, something that does not depend on their approval or their acceptance. We can be who we have always been, helpers and builders and healers. But we can do it for ourselves, for each other, not for people who see us as tools. The vote was called. One by one, representatives from every human world cast their decision. The result was unanimous. Humanity would remain in isolation, not out of hatred, not out of revenge, out of self-respect. Director Heejin Cho sent a response to Tormath. We have received your message, she wrote. We have considered your request. We understand your suffering, but we cannot return. Not because we do not care. We care very much. But for 300 years, we cared for everyone except ourselves. We gave until we had nothing left. We served until we forgot how to live. We are learning now. We are learning that helping others does not mean losing ourselves. We are learning that kindness and dignity can exist together. We hope you will survive. We hope you will rebuild. We hope you will learn the lesson we have learned. But we cannot teach it to you. You must learn it yourselves. Perhaps someday, when you have grown, we will meet again, as equals, as partners, as friends. Until then, we wish you well. Humanity. Tormath read the message on his dying station. He felt something break inside him. Not anger, not hatred, something deeper, something like shame. He had spent his whole life looking down on the humans. They were young, they were small, they were beneath him, but they had been the foundation of everything. They had held the galaxy together while he and others took all the credit. And when they finally walked away, everything fell apart. He understood now. He understood what he had lost. He just understood too late. 20 years after the departure, a child was born on a refugee station at the edge of human space. Her name was Kythera. She was Valori, her small body made of soft crystal that had not yet hardened. She had no memories of the old galaxy. She had never seen the great council halls or the crystal cities or the vast trade networks. She knew only the stories. Her grandmother told her about the time before. We were powerful, the old woman said. Her crystal body was cracked and faded. She had seen too much. We ruled 100 worlds. We had everything. What happened? Kythera asked. The humans left. Why? The old woman was silent for a long time. Because we forgot they were people. Kythera did not understand. But she would learn. The refugee station was dying. Its systems were ancient. Its power was failing. Its people were starving. 3,000 Valori lived there. Packed into spaces meant for 300, they had nowhere else to go. Kythera spent her days watching the stars through a cracked window. She wondered if there was anything out there, anyone who might help. One morning, she saw something new. Lights in the darkness. Ships coming closer. Grandmother, she called. Someone is coming. The old woman pulled herself to the window. Her cracked eyes widened. Those are human ships. The station erupted into panic. Some people remembered the stories of human kindness. Others remembered only that humans had abandoned them. No one knew what to expect. Captain Yoon Ji-yoon led the relief convoy. She was young, born after the departure, raised in the new human civilization. She had never known a galaxy that took her people for granted. She had only known freedom and self-respect. Her grandmother had been a doctor on a Morvathi station. Her grandfather had been an engineer on Theris 7. She grew up hearing their stories. She understood what the old galaxy had done to her people, but she also understood something else. Something the old generation sometimes forgot. Humans were helpers. That was who they were. Not because they had to be. Not because they wanted approval. But because it was right. Open a channel, Unji ordered. Her face appeared on every screen in the refugee station. My name is Yoon Ji-yoon, she said. I am a captain in the human humanitarian fleet. We have detected your distress signals. We are here to help. The station's leader, an old Valori named Morith, answered. Why? His voice was rough with suspicion and hope. Why would you help us? After everything, Unji smiled. It was a gentle smile. A kind smile. But not a weak smile. Because you need help, she said simply. That is enough. The human ships docked with the station. Teams of engineers, doctors, and aid workers poured through the corridors. They brought food. They brought medicine. They brought spare parts and clean water and warm blankets. Kythera watched them work. They moved quickly and efficiently. They smiled at the refugees. They asked their names. They treated them like people. One of the doctors, a woman named Dr. Minji Han, knelt in front of Kythera. Hello there, Minji said. What is your name? Kythera. That is a beautiful name. Are you hungry, Kythera? The child nodded. She had been hungry for as long as she could remember. Minji handed her a food packet. It was warm and soft and smelled better than anything Kythera had ever known. Why are you helping us? Kythera asked. My grandmother says the humans went away because we were bad to them. Minji sat down beside her. Your grandmother is right. The old galaxy was not kind to us. But that was a long time ago. And you were not part of it. You are just a child. You deserve to eat. You deserve to be safe. Everyone deserves that. Are you going to stay? Minji shook her head. No. We will fix your station. We will make sure you have enough food and medicine. Then we will leave. But if you need help again, you can call us. We will come. Why? Kithara asked again. She did not understand. Minji thought for a moment. Because helping is what makes us human. Not serving, not being taken for granted. Helping. There is a difference. Kithara did not fully understand. But something in the word stayed with her. Something important. On the command deck, Captain Unji met with Morith and the other station leaders. "We are not here to serve you," Unji said clearly. "We will not stay. We will not take orders. We are here because it is right. Nothing more. Nothing less." Morith nodded slowly. His cracked face was wet with something that might have been tears. "I was young when the humans left," he said. "I did not understand why. I was angry. I thought you had betrayed us." He paused. "I understand now. We betrayed you first, every day, for 300 years. We betrayed you. And you still came back." "We did not come back for you," Unji said honestly. "We came back for ourselves. Because this is who we are. We help. We build. We heal. We just will not let anyone take us for granted again." "What can we do?" Morith asked. "How can we repay you?" Unji shook her head. "You do not need to repay us. You need to learn. Pass the lesson to your children. Tell them what happened. Tell them why. Make sure they never forget." "What lesson?" "That kindness is not weakness. That the people who serve in silence are often the strongest of all. That if you take something for granted long enough, you will lose it forever." The repairs took 3 weeks. Human engineers rebuilt the power systems. Human doctors healed the sick. Human teachers helped the children. When they were done, the station was stronger than it had ever been. On the last day, Kithara found Captain Unji in the docking bay. "I want to thank you," the child said. Unji knelt down to her level. "You are welcome. But do not just thank me. Remember this day. Remember how it felt to be helped by strangers. And when you grow up, help someone else." "I will," Kithara promised. Unji smiled and touched the child's crystal cheek. "I believe you." The human ships departed. Kithara watched them go. She watched until the lights disappeared into the stars. Something had changed inside her. She understood now. She understood what her grandmother had meant. She understood what the humans had taught. The galaxy had lost something precious when the humans left. Not workers. Not servants. Something deeper. Something that could not be bought, or commanded, or taken by force. They had lost people who cared. People who helped without being asked. People who gave without expecting anything in return. Now the humans were giving again. But this time, they were giving on their own terms. And that made all the difference. Kithara made a decision. When she grew up, she would be different. She would remember what the old council had forgotten. She would treat every species, every person, every stranger, with the same kindness that Captain Unji had shown her. She would make sure the lesson was never forgotten again. Years later, Kithara would become the first Velori ambassador to the new galactic community. She would spend her life building bridges between species. She would teach her children, and her children's children, about the humans who had saved her station. The galaxy would rebuild. Slowly, painfully, it would learn to be better, and at the center of it all, humanity stood tall. Not as servants, not as masters, just as people. People who had finally learned their own worth. Some gifts are so constant, so reliable, that they become invisible. And it is only when they are gone that we understand we never deserved them at all. But sometimes, if we are very lucky, we get a second chance. And this time, the galaxy would not waste it.